Epilepsy warning. Alright, so how deep is the void in Roblox? What's the limit of Roblox's game engine? Let's find out. Normally, if you jumped into the void, you die at around negative 500 Y or 500 studs below the map. But what happens if you don't die? What happens if you kept falling forever? Well, first of all, there's a property in the workspace named fallen parts destroy height, which prevents us from falling infinitely below. It basically just destroys unanchored parts below a certain height. Right now it's set at negative 500, so let's try and set it to negative 1 million. And it doesn't work because Roblox forces you to set it at negative 50,000. This is significantly more space to fall from, but it isn't anywhere near large numbers like Roblox's 32-bit float limit or 3.4 times 10 to the power of 38. So, let's try and connect our camera to this part and just let it fall. And yeah, it still gets removed after like 50,000 studs below the map. Alright, but what if we use C-frame to teleport the whole workspace below the origin, like a billion studs below the origin? Well, it kinda works. But there's a problem. Once we hit extreme positions, the engine starts deleting our character's body parts, which, makes sense. But the camera also stops following us. But even though the body's gone, the model itself still exists. It turns out that the player character model stays at the right coordinates. It's just that the parts inside of it get removed. So what if we attach our camera and coordinate script into the model instead of relying on the body parts? Like, we get the coordinates of the model itself instead of getting the coordinates of the torso or humanoid root part. And nothing happened. Well, in the client, our camera's position is exactly the 32-bit floating point limit. Now, notice that if I add another 0 to this large number, I can't actually get any lower. I just get back to the limit. So, does this mean that this is the maximum depth? I mean, you'd expect at least some texture bugs like the sun disappearing, the screen flashing black, or something like that, but nothing happened. So let's try this server side. If we manually set our camera to that spot, well, then we just get a completely black screen. So maybe we should try, the limit style, like approaching the maximum integer limit. So let's try and teleport to this coordinate first. Let's try 10,000 studs below the origin. Alright, it seems normal. So let's try 100,000 studs. Alright, some slight issues there, but still relatively normal. Let's try 10 million studs. Alright, so immediately I can't move my camera up or down, but I can move it left or right. So I have to manually set some variables of the camera to look at the parts. Now we can immediately see that, wow bro, that's a lot of texture bugs. I mean, look at Newton and Leibniz from my calculus video. They don't look good, bro. But what about 100 million studs? Well, the base plate is clearly glitching out and our models now have the same height as you in real life. At 1 billion studs, well, nothing seems to be loading, but we know that stuff is there. For example, this is what it looks like to move objects. Alright, it's clear we won't be getting much textures moving forward, so let's just focus on our camera. At some point, we get black bars on our screen. And even deeper than that, our screen starts flashing. Actually, we can probably do the same thing in every direction. So, let's just test something out. Let's teleport our characters to something really high. I mean, this should work because, we won't get deleted after we're below a certain height. And yeah, the results are similar. We do get some texture bugs and, the skybox is still having those, issues. Alright, since we know that the limit or the maximum height is, the 32-bit float limit and the maximum depth or negative height is also that 32-bit float limit, we can theoretically calculate the entire volume or space of the entire Roblox world. I mean, the skybox is just a cube. How hard is it going to be, to get the entire volume? But it's basically all we have to do is multiply it by 2 to cover both the negative and positive ranges, and then we just cube it. And yeah, that's basically it. That's the total space a Roblox world can have in Studs Cubed, hopefully. So yeah, thanks for watching. Alright, also please give me video ideas in the comments and I'll pin the best one, probably. Because, it's gonna make it really easy to make videos while during the school year. If I don't have to think about making original video, I'll just copy whatever's in the comments.